Hi, this is Human Hamza, and this is another video part of the Waves 2U video tutorial series. In this video, I'll explain how Waves 2 allows users to create their own database table structures and create database table containers out of those structures to manage their data. When we first log in, we land here on our initial database, and you can see that right from the top right here, we have a quick entry point to our databases section. We also are able to access that same section here at the bottom of our CMS menu tree. When I click databases here, it's going to load the different items that I could act upon when it comes to data. Here we're going to focus on table structures and tables. There's also another subset called Data Manager, which allows for customized websites which have very unique data sets. So here this is really an entry point to a customized section. But here we're going to view how we can design a brand new table structure and create a table out of that. When I click on the table structures item there, I'm shown a grid which manages all of my existing table structures. The whole idea here is you design your table structures and can use them over and over again to create an unlimited number of database tables. Here we have our familiar grid with our built-in search, our tools on the right, and of course we can always paginate to our set of table structures. We can select any of these and edit them. But in this case, what we're going to do is add a brand new table structure. So I'll click on my Add tool, and this is going to open up a new form. So the first thing I'll do is give this a table structure a name. So we'll call this Contact Form Table. And we have two options here. We can either use an existing structure and basically modify that structure and save as a new one, or we can create a new structure from scratch. So I'll click here to create a new structure, and a new window will come up which is going to allow me to do that. Now on the very top we have listed some of the very common columns that are found in almost all database tables, and they're in the form of drop downs here. So for example, we have one set here which has name, and in that set we have first name, middle name, last name, nickname. Similarly, under location we have details related to the address. We have contacts such as the person's email, phone, and you can see that these are grouped in logical sense. Now what I could do is I could start selecting any of these. For example, I'll select first name, and you'll see here on the bottom it automatically adds it, provides a caption, chooses the data type, and also sets the length, which is the max length of this database table field. I'm also to set some constraints. For example, I can make this field a primary key. I could also make it a mandatory field that must be filled for this data to be entered into the database table. Now these things aren't set in stone. I could also maybe add something extra here. So I can say first name column, for example. I'm also able to change this. You can see that this is a full drop down which lists a lot of different data types that can be provided for any field. And depending on the type that you choose, the CMS will intelligently provide a field that makes sense. For example, we can set up an advanced editor as a message field. So the user will actually have a toolbar on the website for them to add certain images or hyperlinks within their message. If we choose a date picker, automatically a calendar will appear. An image list, a drop down of all images within the system. So you can see that it's set up very intelligently. Once I'm ready, I don't really need to save this automatically. As soon as I select my next one, let's say we choose email, it'll save the existing one and let me edit the next one that I selected, which was email. At this point, I can save this, and let's assume there's one that I don't have up here in my common columns. I can just type this and make this message, and in this case what we'll do is we'll choose this as a multi-line text box, and 100 is okay for that. So we'll save this. And once we're satisfied, this is a very basic table structure with 3 columns. We can click on Save, and it's going to give us a message that's been created. And now when we save here, the system will ask us if we want to create a new table with the same name based off of this table structure. In most cases, you're creating a table structure to create a table off of. So usually what we're going to do is click OK here. Now our table structure is here. Our table has been created off that table structure with that same name as our table structure. And now what we can do is within this table section, I can select a new table that I created, which was Contact Form Table. And instead of the table structures grid loading, now we're going to actually be managing all of our tables within this grid. You can see that our Contact Form Table is selected, and the first thing I could do is begin to add records to this table. Now since this is a brand new table, When I click on managing the table values, it's going to give me a form to add my first record in here. So I'm just going to put my first name here, my email, and then a short message. When I click save here, the system will automatically assume that I may want to add another record, so it's going to give me a new fresh form for me to add a record. This way, if we need to add 20 records, we can quickly do it in one streamlined fashion. Once I'm ready to close, I can just click on this exit tool. And now, since we know there's a record in this table, when I click on Manage Table Values, instead of adding a new one, it's going to actually display me with all the records. In this case, there's only one. Now, if this table, assuming had 100 records, we could of course use our search to search for a particular record. As always, we have a filter here, so those 3 columns that I set up for this table, I can select and filter only specifically with that column. As usual, we can sort by clicking on a column heading. We also have a series of tools available over here. We can show more records. Let's say we're showing 20 records here. If we want to show the next set of results, we can click on this tool. We can refresh the grid. Over here, we can import data, and that can be a CSV file format or an Excel format. We can also export the data in those same column types. So when I open this up, you'll see that I have a couple options. First of all, I can fine tune it so I can set a particular date range that I want to export the data from. Let's say I have a year's worth of data and I only want to grab the last month. I can choose the particular dates using this calendar picker here. And then finally, I can even choose some of the columns, how it's sorted, and then the format that I want this output in. And again, these are some of the common formats that we have. So it's just a way of extracting our data. When I'm on a particular item here, I can click on Edit here, and that's going to let me edit the particular table itself. Of course, we can add a new table right from here, so I can click on this Add tool. What's going to ask me to do is provide a name and description and then the table structure to build that table off of. And again, in this drop down, you can see all of our table structures are listed here. I can delete an existing table by selecting it. Let's go back to our first set of results here. So I can select any of these tables and delete it. Finally, we can refresh the grid right from here. Now I'm going to go back to my table that I created. Let's say we type in contact and search here. Here's our contact form table, and let's go back and manage some of the table values. Similarly, we have the same tools. Now we'd be acting on a particular record rather than an entire table. Something that I want to mention here is that for every single record, we have the ability to show it or hide it on the live and stage website. So this gives us full control on what's seen at what point. We can really hide just one record of a table from both sites, just from the live site, just from the stage site, for example. Now the whole idea here is we have our table structure, we have our table created from it. With the ability to do that, it opens up a whole slew of possibilities. For example, some of our widgets work with data. A form builder widget which accepts registration data or a contact form. That data needs to be dumped into the table where the user has access. Similarly, an email sign-up widget which we have in the system. We need to be able to dump those email addresses into a container. So with the ability to do this directly from the system, the user can really, with just a series of clips, go create a form, create a database table, and make sure the two are connected so that when a user goes to the site and enters some information in that form, it's immediately available for any CMS user to extract, view, and manipulate. So this wraps up this video on database tables within Waves 2.